Alright, so next up on things to see today, we have something that's been requested a few times, I just haven't been able to get around to it. And this is Majorkill's Every Unique Primarch Power Explained by an Australian. And this is kind of an important list to go over, because the sheer fact of the matter is each one of the Primarch was built with a different kind of strength in mind, a different kind of attribute, like Fulgrim could heal really fast. Magnus was psychic. You had, the lion who could pretty much do spatial calculations in his head and had an instinctual knack for combat. But in any case, each one of the Primarchs had a different gift that none of the others did that made them, if they were to ever get along, pretty much unstoppable. But under the same tokens, it can be argued whether or not the Emperor meant to have them all around him until they were old enough to take hold of their legions and lead them out to space. It can be argued that the Emperor actually intended for them to be spread throughout the galaxy. But in either case, they didn't wind up staying for long at home. And I have a bunch of vehicles going by my window right now, so I am sorry. But in any case, let's go ahead and get started on this one. This has been requested by literally half the planet. Here we go.
G'day guys and gal. In your life, you will achieve many things. You will help people. You will make people laugh, smile, give them hope and give them meaning. And maybe, just maybe, one or two of you might even make a girl come. However, nothing you do in your life will ever even amount to the significance of a cum stain on a public toilet when compared to the achievements of a Primarch. Should you feel bad about this? No, because they aren't real. But more importantly, they were born with slick special superpowers.
Yes.
As we know, each Primarch has their special Primarch source. Stuff like super strength, intelligence, and willpower are the basic guidelines to make a demigod. However, Primarchs are more than that, with each Primarch having a number of their own little spicy powers that are completely unique to them. Some of these are pretty obvious, like Magnus's warp powers or Leman's concerning obsession with wolves.
This is very true. And Sanguinius' wings.
However, others are a lot more subtle. Did you know that Fulgrim's regeneration is significantly faster than all the other Primarchs, bar Vulcans? Bet you didn't know that, which means this video is valuable to you. It's not that valuable, but still a little bit, so keep watching. Lads and lady, it's been an incredible year, and it's awesome to see that we're still having great growth and momentum, but Arch needs to eat our dust, and he's got to do it now. So if you laugh, smile, learn something new, or hope democracy prevails in Myanmar, then consider hitting that juicy red button. I have something a little cheeky planned for when we overtake Arch that I know you'll like. Today we'll go over each of the Primarch's unique abilities, providing examples of when they were used and how powerful those abilities were. This is all going to be before Chaos claimed half the Primarchs, so Angron having demon wings or Fulgrim having like 8 tits doesn't count. Let's get into it. Starting us off with Primarch number 1, because chronological order is a vibe. We have the Lion L. Johnson. Now Mr. Johnson is a space knight, which is already awesome, but not necessarily a special power, even though all of his other powers kinda stem from that. Firstly, he's a god tier swordsman and duelist, able to fight without conscious thought.
Pretty much one of, if not the best combatant in the entirety of the lore.
He can change sword swings mid-swing based on gut instinct, which is why he was able to beat Konrad Curze in a fair duel, despite Konrad being able to see the future. Konrad would foresee a downward slice, prepare to counter, then the lion's instinctual power would detect the counter before it happened, and it would change the slice to a sideways one, hence cutting out a chunk of deranged Batman. Yet Konrad wasn't a huge fan of that ability. Whilst the lion isn't explicitly a psyker, his spirit is very prominent. It's very how you doing. As he grew up in a chaos monster infested forest, where he hunted mutated demon beasts for fun, he had grown extremely resistant to chaos. So much so that when Kairos Fateweaver, who knows everything, came to the lion to try turn him to chaos, he realized that there was absolutely nothing he could say or do that would even make the lion hesitate.
True.
Then the lion fucked him up and sent him back to hell. Another example of the lion's obscene fortitude is when a million-year-old super psycho Xeno invaded his mind, which is, something it specializes in and has been training to do for 1,000,000 years. However, the lion was just able to fuck the Xeno to death with pure willpower. This enhanced spirit and willpower even allows the lion to maybe permakill demons, and it gives him more presence than even Horus. Loyalty is its own reward. On to number 2 now. We have
the problem with all of that is that the lion is about as socially, he's not that good in social situations, and that's a massive understatement to say the least.
One of the missing Primarchs, whose superpower is his ability to play hide and seek. Still haven't found him. Number 3 is everyone's favorite pedo snake, Fulgrim. Fulgrim's power was the fact that he was pretty. No, like, I'm serious. When he was found after crash landing on the planet, the people were like, "We cannot feed this boy, let's kill him." But then they were like, "Oh no, he's hot," so they let him live. Fulgrim doesn't have too many special abilities, which, you know, shows. But one thing people often overlook is his insane regeneration powers, even compared to other Primarchs. Like, he gets shot in the eye with an extremely high caliber sniper rifle, something which would definitely kill or at least severely maim a lot of the other Primarchs, and he just kinda walks it off.
Yeah, pretty much he got shot in the face by a Raven Guard. I can't remember who else was supporting him, but, oh man, I didn't know what to think when that happened, but yeah, he pretty much needed about 5 minutes of being on the ground, and then he was able to get back up again.
Once when he was doing a ritual where he needed to have shit carved into his flesh, he had to focus on slowing down his healing factor because the carvings kept healing before the ritual could be finished. But yeah, Fulgrim's a fucking dipshit for picking up that sword. On to number 4, we have Perturabo, who was given some, kinda shit superpowers that he resented a lot. Like, it seems as if the Emperor was just taking the piss here. Basically, Perty can always see the Eye of Terror, which sucks because it's not a nice thing to look at.
Nope.
Especially when he was young and didn't know what it was.
A lot of Perturabo's paranoia stems from that, because he always felt like something was watching him.
It seemed like an evil god was staring at him all the time, which made him super paranoid. Another power, which seems good but kinda isn't, is that Perty inherently understands almost everything. He can look at something and automatically figure out what it is, how it's made and how it works, and how to improve it. There is no joy of discovery or learning for him. Poor Baba. Another thing, which he added in himself, but will still count, is that he basically put a computer in his head, which allows him to view and play battles like an RTS game. The more I learn about Perturabo, the more I realize there is a Perturabo in all of us. Rather that than a Fulgrim in me. Number 5 is Jaghatai Khan. Other than being the token Asian, Jaghatai is incredibly fast. Like, he is the speed.
Ridiculous.
He can tap into the speed force to go Super Saiyan speed in times of rage. Like, one time, one of his space marines died, and he got so mad that he began killing orcs so fast and viciously that the orcs weren't even enjoying it at all, and they wanted to run. That's right. The Khan was so fast that he made orcs dislike fighting. The Khan is also able to kill ghosts, which is, you know, a bit random, but it still counts.
Yeah.
A final note is that Jaghatai is arguably the most reasonable out of all the Primarchs. Like when the heresy broke out and he listened to both sides' arguments, he was like, "Traitors, I understand where you are coming from. Father is a dickhead at heart, but you guys are fighting for demons of hell, so I am not going to join you." That's probably the most reasonable way to look at it, in my opinion.
Yeah, pretty much he was undecided until Mortarion came up with his little brand of bullshit, and he decided to side with the Emperor versus the traitors. Wow, that thing's making a lot of noise. Sorry, guys.
On to number 6, we have the Leman of Russ, the Wolf King, the man who howls unironically. Now the obvious one
There are no wolves on Fenris!
here is the Cainix Helix, which gives Russ increased savagery, heightened senses, sharper teeth, and huge resistance to the warp.
As well as a massive superiority complex that's transferred down through all of his units until after the end of the Horus Heresy, where he disappeared, to which point I can start standing the Space Wolves again.
Like some Space Wolves will allow themselves to become wolfen so that they can withstand huge amounts of chaos without falling. Whilst Russ is anti-Psyker, he can still tap into his spirit and communicate with the warp and scry using runes and other definitely not warp powers.
Right.
Russ can also let out a warp disrupting howl,
Yes.
which he did so to Magnus in order to help overpower Magnus before fucking up his back. Number 7 gives us the rogueliest of Dorns. Having lots of special powers doesn't make a Primarch better or more impactful. The fact that Dorn only has one subtle power, that being his ability to silence and push back the warp with his willpower, doesn't mean he is weaker than Perturabo, who has like 4 or 5 powers. In fact, it's the opposite. By Rogal not having innate OP powers, he has to work harder to improve himself, hence why he's a top tier swordsman commander, and an all-round dude, even compared to the rest of the Primarchs. On to number 8, we have Space Batman, with extra guts and no sense of morality or likability. Konrad Curze. Konrad is a good example of having too many powers, as it has literally broken his mind. He has an incredibly powerful precognitive ability, able to see events years in the future or mere seconds away. A downside to this is that his visions were harsh and they hurt his brain. As he got better at using it, it also caused more damage to his sanity. He foresaw the Horus heresy and the death of various Primarchs years ahead of time, and he could also use this power to time when to jump out of a ship so he wouldn't die.
Yeah, the first time he met when the Emperor came to Nostromo, he met Sanguinius and Rogal Dorn. He saw Sanguinius die the second that he met them. He also saw what would eventually happen to Rogal Dorn, and he saw this legitimately within seconds of seeing them. And when the Emperor reached out to him, it actually threw everything into overdrive and caused him to collapse to the ground. But after the Emperor touched him, it kind of cleared everything out. I'm wondering what would have happened if the Emperor had spent some more time with Konrad, so Konrad could get a little bit of silence in his skull, because he had been plagued by visions since he was pretty much conscious of his surroundings.
Another power of his is his stealth abilities. He can merge with shadows and become nearly invisible. It's not as good as Corax's invisibility, but it's still decent, and it helps him pull off some gnarly ambushes. But yeah, I'd take a working brain over that shit any day. Number 9 is the Space Angel, who also had solid cognitive abilities, but he wasn't a whiny little bitch about it. Sanguinius. Now before we get into Sangi's Foresight, let's address the elephant in the room. Motherfucker has wings. He uses those wings to fly, but also kinda not. See, his wings, according to physics, are not enough to get him off the ground. Hence he is flying using warp magic, and his wings are just there to make it not look weird. His foresight is slightly less powerful than Konrad's, but it doesn't scramble his brain. It works in a very similar way. Sanguinius foresaw his death well into the future, but he also foresaw that a duel that he was about to have with Curze could kill either of them, hence he didn't proceed with it. Another less known power of Sangi's was his ability to bend reality to his will in subtle ways. When his flagship is crashing and should be breaking up and exploding, he wills it to survive the crash, and he basically holds the ship together through manifesting his desired reality. His duel with Horus is another example. Sangi foresaw the duel, and he accepted it as his fate, hence reality bent to make it happen. If he was like, nah, fuck that, then it's unlikely it would have happened. Number 10. The halfway there Primarch is Ferrus the Manus. Sadly, Ferrus didn't get a whole lot of screen time, because he got decapitated, but he still displayed some cool powers. His innate knowledge of forging and engineering was insane, and it only grew more powerful when he bashed up what could have been a Catan shard and absorbed its necrodermis into his arms and central nervous system. Yeah, the metal arms were pretty cool, and they gave him a serious buff. But yeah, a bit of head choppy kinda cuts, but he's a little short.
God,
Number 11 is the other missing Primarch, who is a master of Where's Wally, except that he is Wally, and it's this page. Number 12 is the angry Angron, who has nails in his fucking brain.
This is
worst superpower ever. Originally, Angron was an empath who could absorb and ease the sufferings of those around him, which he did to help his fellow gladiators sleep. But yeah, that ability kind of vanished when all he felt was suffering after getting the old brain nails. The brain nails also might have totally severed his connection to the warp, making him lose any other potential Primarch powers, as well as making him lose his Primarch aura, which is the thing that makes Space Marines shake in their boots whenever a Primarch is nearby. Yeah, the world...
Yeah, when people would shake in their boots when Angron came around, it was merely because of the fact that he was so abjectly terrifying. 1 second, babies are making a lot of noise. You hear that? They're very upset. Alright, in any case, yeah, the concept of a loyalist Angron has been something that I've really looked at a lot. Moving right along. If I hit the right button...
World Eaters fucking hated Angron. Number 13 is the big G-Man, Guilliman, the robot of Utes. Guilliman has like no superpowers. His strength, speed, combat ability, and commanding skills are all decent, but not abnormally powerful. What he does have, however, is some mint-ass organization skills. And in a galaxy full of constant war and suffering, being organized gives you a huge edge over everyone else. What is Konrad's shadow-stalking powers compared to Guilliman's ability to muster an armada within days? What is Jaghatai's speed compared to a well-supplied and well-trained army? Each Primarch's abilities serve to make them a raid boss, whilst Guilliman's organizational abilities turns his armies into raid bosses. Just look at the effect Guilliman has had since returning to the setting. During the Horus Heresy, the traitor's goal was to delay Guilliman from reaching Terra. The goal was never to turn him to Chaos or beat his armies, because both of them weren't going to happen. On to number 14, we have Morty, that smelly piece of shit. Morty was unusually tanky and could endure severe punishment. He also had an aura which gradually exhausted people, even ones that generally were immune to exhaustion. For example, in his fight against the Khan, the Khan landed a lot more hits, but Morty was able to tank them whilst gradually wearing the Khan out. He can also endure significantly more poison and toxins than the other Primarchs, but at the cost of looking like an ugly-ass motherfucker. He also had a surprisingly solid stealth ability and could sneak past most people. And he was a psyker, but like, who cares?
Well, apparently he does, because he was all about, anti-psyker nonsense during the Council of Nicaea. In fact, he was one of the main proponents against that. Yeah, how you manage to miss someone his size has to be down to warp fuckery. But in any case, once he turned to chaos, there was absolutely no way. How are you going to use stealth abilities where you smell like a Los Angeles landfill during the hottest day of the summer?
Number 15 is Big Red, Magnus the Big Red.
Yes.
Obviously, this dude's a wizard. Great wizard, shit listener.
Yes.
He can also change his size depending on the situation. Need to punch a titan to death? No worries. Needs to get through a low door frame? No worries. Another ability is that his appearance changes depends how he's feeling. And he's not just the psyker, he's literally made of the warp. Like when Leman snapped his spine, he didn't put Magnus in a wheelchair or physically disable him. He broke his soul. Probably would have rathered the wheelchair, but oh well. Number 16, we have the big man, Horus. I'd like to say that male pattern boldness is his power, but it seems like half the Primarchs have it. Horus was a legendary warrior and commander, but that isn't very special.
No.
What is special is his supernatural levels of charisma. After all, this dude convinced 9 Primarchs, beings of supreme intellect, as well as a ton of space marines, which are known for their genius IQs, to willingly sell their souls to the forces of hell and rebel against the Emperor for some pretty unconvincing reasons.
Yeah.
Primarch 17 is the kitty fiddler, Lorgar.
Horus's charisma, I don't really view as more of a superpower, more as just he was just literally that charismatic. As far as the reasons some of them turned, Morty turned because basically he liked Horus more than the Emperor. Fulgrim turned because he was being skull-fucked by Slaanesh. Perturabo turned basically because he was concerned that, not concerned, he had just wiped out his home planet and didn't think the Emperor would forgive him for it. Konrad Curze turned because, well, fuck it. Lorgar turned because Erebus told him to.
Lorgar was and still is the runt of the litter, but he did develop some snazzy skills over time.
Yeah.
He unlocked these saga powers, which whilst they couldn't compare to Magnus's, still came in pretty hot. He too has some pretty significant charismatic powers, as he was able to convert multiple planets to a new religion in only a couple years. That charisma extends to his sons, who are unusually loyal to Lorgar, even for space marines. For example, when the traitors rebelled, each traitor legion had to cull about 1/3 of their legion due to loyalty issues. Lorgar didn't have to do this. In fact, when he did cull a portion of his legion, it wasn't due to loyalty issues, it was because he just didn't like them that much.
This is true. He didn't have to cull... If he didn't choose to do it, he didn't have to. Most of his legion just turned right out. I actually made a point of this in a 5-minute lore I did, that the entirety of the Word Bearer's Legion has daddy issues. Because, flat out, they just seem to just even though it's completely illogical, completely ridiculous, they'll just turn around and go with whatever Lorgar told them to do.
Primarch 18 is Vulkan, who is stacked. Vulkan is the biggest Primarch, and arguably the strongest. He also cannot die, as he is a perpetual. Vulkan has been killed in thousands of creative and over-the-top ways, and he's always regenerated.
Mostly
he's
by
also a
Konrad
master
Curze.
craftsman and can make fucking wild shit that no one else can make, even if they were shown how to. Vulkan's greatest power, however, is that he is a good person. The Emperor was so proud of Vulkan to see that Vulkan maintained his humility when it seemed like all the other Primarchs had lost theirs. Give this man a hug. Primarch 19 is the Raven, Corvus Corax. Corvus is a spooky dude with some spooky powers.
Yeah,
he can
including writing extensive amounts of poetry.
Straight up turn invisible, even in broad daylight, and he used this ability to survive the Istvan drop site massacre. Corvus can also summon Chaos Corruption, as he killed a word bearer that was attached to his legion after detecting it within him. By far his coolest power though, actually no, by far the coolest power out of all the Primarchs, is his ability to transform into a gigantic shadow demon and wreck everyone's shit. One of the last times we see Corvus, he beats the shit out of Lorgar, again, by using this demonic shadow raven form, and by God, I'd love to see a tabletop model of it one day. Fuck it, maybe I'll just get one made. I'll call it Raven. And finally, number 20, Alpharius and Angron. Other than their ability to scramble my brain whenever I think about them, these dudes can give their blood to their sons. This greatly empowers their son, and it makes them think that they are Alpharius, hence why Alpharius seems to have died like 10 times now.
Yes.
These Primarchs can also hide their Primarch aura and blend it with normal Space Marines. Alpharius was present for most of the Emperor's meetings with each Primarch, but he was able to go unnoticed in the crowd. It's funny to think that as all the Primarchs come from the Emperor's DNA, hence the Biggie has access to all of their powers. OP is shit. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then Patreon is the place to be. For only $1 per month, give you access to a boatload of Warhammer hentai.
There you go.
Hit the subscribe button, then hit the real subscribe button for more Prime content.
Yes.
Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Well, that was every unique Primarch power explained by an Australian, and I gotta say, he nailed them all. There's, I think the most OP of all the Primarch powers is just probably Vulkan. But in any case, like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll catch you guys next time.